Natty Rebel Jones is a muralist designer and public arts facilitator and an Oakland resident. His illustrative style under the alias Natty Rebel has landed in projects from East Oakland to East Africa. He holds a BA in commercial art from Virginia Commonwealth University and considers himself an art anthropologist. His passion for social justice mixed with art continues to drive him to produce visually stimulating imagery and build long-standing relationships with communities around the world. In addition to painting murals in San Francisco, Oakland, Vallejo, he has also created public art installations in Philadelphia, New York, and Ethiopia. In 2007, Andre moved to Oakland and began painting commissioned murals. In 2015, he founded the Bay Area Mural Program, BAMP, a nonprofit organization established to engage communities in public art. As the executive director of BAMP, Andre has facilitated numerous large-scale community-based projects while employing local Bay Area talent. His mission is to employ the visual arts to inspire and redefine urban communities. His emotionally captivating works reflect his sense of connection to the people. Let me also introduce Timothy B. Timothy B is the son of Oakland and a groundbreaking multimedia artist who is recognized internationally for pushing boundaries with vibrant murals and Afro-Indigenous illustration. He's shaping the future of Oakland with work inspired by his Afro-futuristic perception of reality, along with his African ancestral background. His art and expression of love can be found on walls throughout Oakland. His work creates an immersive experience empowering communities of color to embrace messages of peace and positivity that inspire change. The motivational words that guide him are that anything is possible when love, faith, focus, and urgency is the foundation.
Thank you all for having us. It's great to be here. So yeah, I'm Andre Jones, Executive Director of the Bay Area Mural Program. And yeah, pretty much my vision and mission includes the arts, you know, and everything that I do. I've wanted to be an artist since I was 3 years old. Really didn't have any other passions outside of the arts except for playing soccer, which I did semi-professionally over in England for a little while. When that dream was deteriorated, art was my fallback and my go-to. So my mother was like, you know what, you need to go to college, and if you're gonna go to college for something, why not be for the arts? And I didn't even think at that time that it was even possible. So I was like, okay, all right. So I went to Virginia Commonwealth University. I was on the 6-year plan. It took me a little bit longer because I dropped out to pursue my soccer career. And that's when I moved back from England to finish up my degree. I got my degree in commercial arts and illustration. And even while I was in the university, I had the mentality that I wasn't there in school to find a job. I was looking at trying to figure out how I could create jobs. If I was going to be at a academic environment, I wanted to see how that structure worked and how those people continued to stay employed. So, so yeah, I was learning, you know, the ways of different art techniques, but more importantly, I was trying to see how structures worked and how professors were involved and how their, you know, work influenced and helped students. So just picking up on that, I decided to, you know, move to New York after getting my degree, pursue my art career, and basically freelance while I was working as a computer instructor in Harlem. So I was working as a computer instructor in Harlem, and by day, and at nighttime I was silk screening and, you know, doing freelance artwork. New York wasn't really the place I wanted to be. I was doing a lot more graphic work, billboard designing and things like that. So I moved down to Philadelphia. Philadelphia probably is one of the cities with the largest amounts of murals. So that's what really grabbed my attention with moving to Philadelphia, was just their support for the public arts. And it was the first time I'd ever seen people of color actually doing large scale murals. And the first time I saw it, I was like, mind blown, like, wow, you can do that? People do that? People that look like me do that? So instantly I wanted to join the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program and just start painting murals. So I was driven to do murals with the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program. When I felt like that program was moving a little bit slow, I went and did murals on my own. Um, Fast forwarding to Oakland, this is one of the reasons why me and Timothy B have grown and have such a wonderful relationship, just working. I love Timothy B's tenacity. He reminds me of a young myself, even though he is a big part of the Bay Area Mural Program. He just has the drive to go out and do work, even when uh, even when BAMP isn't working, Timothy B is working. And that was pretty much me when I was in my early 20s and 30s. Even when the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program wasn't doing a project, I was still doing a project. I was sign painting for stores. I was doing little portraits, any type of artistic work that I could find, I was trying to tap into. Um, Here in Oakland, it wasn't the easiest starting the Bay Area Mural Program. It was an uphill battle just trying to get public work. It was funny, even as I moved to Oakland in 2007, even just the name Natty Rebel just didn't seem like it fit with a lot of the projects that I was applying for. So right before I did this big Whole Food project, I went ahead and established the Bay Area Mural Program to just to take on bigger projects because I felt like there was a sense of, I don't know, I didn't know if the rebel was too much or if it was discrimination, with getting certain projects, but I just felt like my work was good enough, but I didn't get the attention or even the projects that I felt like, I deserved, even at looking at some of the projects that were selected through grant processes, through competitions, I felt like, okay, well, I could do work just as good, if not better. So that's when I figured that I had to restructure my approach. And that's when I formed the Bay Area Mural Program because I felt like just the term or even the title Bay Area Mural Program was a lot more digestible for people. So even as my, military father would tell me, he was like, you have to learn to play the game. And for me, I was always a rebellious youth and like, I don't want to play the game. I want to draw and paint what I want to draw. I want to paint what. And he's like, all right, well, you better figure things out because if you don't learn to play the game is going to play you. So, with that motivation, I pretty much decided like, all right, I can't go on thinking that I can take on projects as Natty Rebel as, the projects have bigger budgets and there's more corporate interests and stakeholders involved. I was like, you know what? BAMP is a lot more digestible. Bay Area Mural Program is a lot more digestible. So the very first project I applied for, which was a Whole Foods project in downtown Oakland by Lake Merritt, we got it. And I was just like, oh, wow, is this how we play the game? Okay, all right. So it was just interesting seeing how different people who I've been working with and associated with for years just received my work differently under a different title. And then the irony came when this whole shelter in place and the protests and everything came. And as I started the Bay Area Mural Program, it was funny because even Timothy B, knowing some of my older work, he looked at some of the work I was doing and starting with BAMP and he was like, flowers, butterflies, and bridges? He's like, is that what you're going to paint? He's like, you have so much more to give and to, your story is so much deeper than that. And I've seen some of your other work. Why are you just compromised? I was like, because it's the Bay and these are feel good, universal images that everyone can love. And he's like, okay, I hear you, but can you give us some of that old Natty Rebel stuff? And I'm like, okay, right now, we got to level up and I got to try and do some new things, try and get different audiences. And maybe 3 or 4 months after doing the Whole Foods mural and BAMP being started, everybody started talking about they wanted social justice murals and they wanted more edgier subject matter. And I'm like, wow, this is hilarious. I've been doing social justice murals and edgy work for 10 years and feeling like getting some type of pushback and some type of resistance to it. And now that I'm trying to paint butterflies and bridges, people are like, no, we don't want that. We want the social justice. And I'm like, great, okay, cool. It's, it's just a beautiful irony and twist to just how the world spins, and just as far as an artist and my perception of, how I deliver my artwork is just, it's just beautiful. As an illustrator, I love creating all different type of subject matters. So I love, my heart is in social justice. I've always been somewhat of an activist with my artwork. And I feel like even with, creating feel good and peace murals, that is a part of the activism work. It is a part of how we, see our community and engage our community, and pretty much try and, set that message and send that message across different locations of where we paint our murals. So I feel like, even with, the fist in the air protest murals, all the way up to the peaceful, poppy and butterfly murals, it's all still activism work. So it's been a great, it's been a great road, and just even seeing the artwork go up in downtown Oakland. And it's just been a great time to even have the nonprofit Bay Area Mural Program just in action, to where we can feel like a, important part of our community. So yeah, that's my 2 cents and my story. So I'm gonna pass the mic on to Timothy B. But thank you all for listening, and I'll continue back at the rest of the slide with some of our community engagement and how we take on projects as a team.
Hey, thank you, Natty, and thank you everyone for allowing me this opportunity. For those who don't know me, my name is Timothy Blewett, locally known as Timothy B, the artist, and I'm from Oakland, California. Let me change my screen. I don't want to look at myself. I want to look at everybody else. So it doesn't feel like I'm just talking to a brick wall. Okay, but yeah, I'm from Oakland, California. I grew up by the lake. The lake has always been a pretty diverse community. I went to school out here for a while until I reached the 6th grade, and my mother had moved me out to Stockton to seek better education and also a better lifestyle. During those times, Oakland was pretty rough. Just to give you insight, when I was younger, I was leaving a basketball game, and I saw my first shooting. And from that point on, my mom, she knew that, she had to get me out of this environment. And also, during school, I wouldn't say I was a trouble kid, but, I enjoyed conflict. But once I got to Stockton, that's when things, slowed down for me. If you ever been to Stockton, Stockton is a very slow paced environment, ideal for somebody who is retiring. And just to kind of paint the picture a little bit, we had a Delta in the backyard, we had a golf course up the street, we had a community pool, community park, and you would think that's ideal for a child, but not for an urban kid, who grew up in the busyness of Oakland, and during my time in Oakland, we had, I was in art programs, I was in after school programs, Monday through Sunday, I was playing basketball for the Oakland Bulldogs and also the Indians. And so I played on 2 basketball teams. I had a full schedule, and that was my mom's way of keeping me out of trouble. Then it was in Oakland where I fell in love with art. And I discovered that I was good in art in the 2nd grade, just, through my peers. They used to root me on. They used to encourage me. And my mom was also my #1 cheerleader as well. And so when, fast forward, I'm in Stockton. In Stockton, after the first year, my excitement left. It was nice to be in a new environment, the first year, because I was accustomed to Oakland. Oakland was comfortable. My family was there. My friends was there, and once I got, like during my time in Stockton, I had to find new ways to occupy my time. The programs, we didn't have as many programs out there. The only thing we could do in Stockton was go to the roller rink that closed down before I even entered high school. And then we had the movies, but that gets boring, So kids was looking for things to do. So towards like graduation, I started getting into making music videos. A friend of mine, he was getting into music heavily, and he needed somebody to shoot films for him. And at the time, I had started a clothing line, and I needed someone to promote my t-shirts. So I convinced my family to invest in a camera for me for Christmas. And also around the same time, I was getting into tattooing. So between shooting music videos and doing tattoos and doing photography, I was busy all through. I was creating a movement throughout Stockton, and I was creating a buzz around my name. And also I was in graphic arts because I couldn't afford a graphic designer. So I had to take it upon myself to do all the work. And that ended up leading me into like just different opportunities around the Central Valley and also back at home in the Bay Area. And it wasn't until a family reunion, I was talking to my cousin about some of my goals. And one of my goals was to move back home. And he had offered his couch to me for $200 a month. Now, at the time, I was barely making a cent, and also I didn't have any connections back at home. I mean, other than, my family. But, because I moved at a young age, I didn't have many friends back at home, so I had to pretty much start over. So I moved back, and I started going to school at Chabot College, where I was studying art and, just taking the basic requisites. And I started tattooing at Oakland Inc. And during this time, I want to say I shot my first short film because I was a part of this nonprofit organization called United Roots. And so I started to make some connections, and things was looking good at the time, but still I wasn't making any money. And I could barely even afford $200 rent, So I was working jobs in between time. And it was just really stressful during this time, I was depending on financial aid just to get by. And, fast forward, I ended up leaving school to pursue the arts full time, and also just, the workforce. I was tired of struggling, and it was starting to, going to school was putting a hole in my pockets. So I had to take a hiatus from school. And then also when I was tattooing at the shop, they was taking 50% of all my earnings. So, I mean, just to give you insight, like if I did $1,000 tattoo, I'm only taking home $500. And then on top of that, I had to buy my own supplies, which is like, I would say just for a week, like in supplies, I would spend close to $200 in supplies, So it just wasn't adding up. So I had to leave the tattoo shop. And during this time, I met a young lady who had caught my heart. And she introduced me to one of my good friends. His name is James Shields. He's a local artist here in Oakland, but he's from Stockton. And I ended up making the connection because I heard his name. And his father, I used to go to this church called Progressive. And his father's name was Pastor Glenn Shields. So when I heard his name, I was like, hey, you are Pastor Shield's son, right? And he was like, yeah. So from that point on, we instantly connected. And so he ended up getting me into painting murals. And he invited me to paint this mural at Revolutionary Cafe, which is off 7th Street in West Oakland by the BART. And you can even go see it to this day. It's still up there. And I painted these trees. And it was so relaxing to just paint. You know, I didn't feel much pressure as I did tattooing. You know, it wasn't so competitive. You know, and like just to give you insight into the shop life of tattooing, you have about 4 or 5 different tattoo artists. I'm the youngest of the bunch. So, you know, like my voice doesn't really matter, you know, to these elite artists, right, quote unquote. And you know, so it just felt so good just to be outside, connecting with the community, you know, also spreading positive messages, and seeing some permanency, you know, on the wall. You know, I've been creating permanent art for a while now, but you know, it was like it was scaled, you know, very broadly. You know, people from the BART was able to see my work, and furthermore, so fast forward. Excuse me if if it seems like I'm just kind of rushing through. I understand we are on a strict time limit, but you know, so much to say, right? So fast forward, it is 2017. And me, Shields, a good friend of mine, Ben, who I met through Shields, and their friend, Chuck, we had applied for the Bay Area Mural Program. And some of y'all may have seen this piece. Not Bay Area Mural Program, excuse me, Bay Area Mural Festival. We applied for the Bay Area Mural Festival that took place in 2017. And we created this piece called Turfing. So this was like my first big piece, and like also my first paid piece. You know, I received like $1,000 from this piece, and at the time, for somebody making, you know, cents on the dime, that was a lot of money. You know, especially, you know, for an artist just creating and just trying to, you know, put his work out there. That was a big deal. So I was greatly inspired. I knew at that moment, this is what I wanted to do. Like, this is my calling. And at the time, you know, me and my team, we had our ups and downs, and we was clashing. So, you know, I figured like it would be best for me to just take things, you know, in my own hands and pursue like the muraling world on my own. And so, you know, like over time, you know, I was honing in on my skills, still moving around. And like, I think it was 2018, I got my first mural gig at like my first solo mural gig at 7th West. They let me paint their bathrooms. And I created this image of a woman. I wish I should have sent this to y'all, but I'll just paint the picture for you. It was an image of a woman smoking a flower, a sunflower. And it was a beautiful piece. And from that point on, you know, I started to build some confidence around just doing pieces on my own. And a friend of mine, James Shields, he invited me to Columbia. And at the time, my uncle, he wanted his space back. I think I had too much company in his space. And, you know, at the time, I'm a single man. So, during that time, I was a single man. So I had a few ladies in and out. And I think that made him frustrated, you know. So, you know, I think he got bothered by that and he wanted to push me out. But it came at the best time, because right before we had that conversation about me exiting, I bought a one-way ticket to Columbia. And the goal was to go out there, connect with the community, paint images, you know, paint the voices of those we encountered, And that's exactly what we did. I ended up, at the time, again, I want to say only had like maybe $500 saved. And we were leaving like 2 weeks from that point, right? And so within 2 weeks, I ended up selling 5 to 7 paintings. I think it was about 7 paintings. And I ended up making up to like $2,500. So I used that money and I was out. I ended up traveling for 2 months until money was getting low. And I want to say once I got down to $700, I bought me a one-way ticket back home. And again, I don't have a place to stay. I don't have a place to work. I wasn't in the tattoo studio anymore. And I even tried to go back to the tattoo studio. And he said no, because he wanted a full-time artist. And I understand business. And so I'm at my parents' house trying to figure it out. And a friend of mine, Ben, who I was on that project with, he told me that a space was opening up for $465. So I was like, cool. Now, at this time, after 2 weeks of being at home, I only had $200 left after paying bills. So I had to figure it out quickly. And so I made a few phone calls. I called my uncle. I asked him if I could use the space for a couple of days. And by then, I had, I think I had 3 clients waiting to, get tattooed by me. So 3 tattoos later, I had $1,000. I used that money to pay first month's rent and to put down my deposit. The following week, I landed my biggest gig at the time with Empire Entertainment, and that was $5,500. So that money had lasted me for maybe 3-4 months, and and that gave me enough time just to focus on my art and just paint inside the house. And so the following year, we are in 2019. Brother Nipsey, some of you may know, some of you may have heard, but Nipsey Hussle, he was an artist from Los Angeles. He passed away. And that was a big hit to my community and to many communities, because I think a lot of us felt where he was coming from. He spoke on the pain of all of us, and he was the symbol of somebody coming from the mud and creating, something, creating something bigger, and along with that, he was a man of his community. He was just a strong, figure, So a lot of us was grieving, and my auntie, she had called me and asked me if I could create a piece on the behalf of Brother Nipsey, and that she would pay for all the supplies if I, found the location for the piece. So I remember a guy I met in college. His dad owned the store right by the lake, and it's called Grand Express. So I went up there, I had my design in hand, and I pretty much sold the piece, And from that point on, after I created that piece, I started attracting attention from all over the country. I mean, people from New York and North Carolina and all these different places was coming here just to see this piece and take photos in front of it. And that piece just led to like the Kehlani piece. I don't know if y'all saw some of my previous pieces, but if you know about Kehlani, she's a local artist from North Oakland. I ended up painting a mural on her behalf recently, and now we are here, and I recently created a piece on the behalf of Nia, and just kind of like, just as of lately, I've been just trying to do like more, I've been trying to create pieces of healing, and love and just trying to bring, you know, the community in a calming space, you know. But also, you know, I recognize that this isn't the time for peace. This is the time for change. You know, and in order for us to have peace, we all must have freedom. You know, and so, you know, I've been trying to reimagine. I've been wanting to like create pieces, reimagining that future and what that would look like. You know, what that will feel like for all of us. You know, but a lot of us haven't had the opportunity to, you know, experience peace. You know, so like a lot of us don't even know what that will even look like because we haven't experienced even freedom at this point. You know, so that's been like my goal recently, is to like educate specifically the Black community of, you know, our cultural identity and our historical identity through art. You know, because once we learn of who we are, then we'll learn how to respect other cultures, and that goes for every culture. Once you learn about who you are within your culture, you'll be able to really, you know, gain some love for other people. And that's where freedom and peace will come from, you know? So, I mean, you know, for the most part, in a nutshell, that's my story. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. You know, there's a lot that went on in between. And it's a lot of good things that's, you know, coming from all this.
So basically we have slides of some of me and Tim's individual work that we've done individually, and then some of the work that we've done together. All right, so this is the back of Flax Art Store. Flax Art Store used to be in San Francisco, but due to gentrification and the pricing of, you know, living and even renting in San Francisco, Howard Flax had to move over here to Oakland. So, you know, just basically just how the tech boom and just everything has really just affected the Bay Area to where, you know, it's not just people's houses, but businesses have been affected. So this is their new location over on 17th and Martin Luther King downtown. So I got a chance to meet Howard when I was painting down in downtown Oakland over at AU Lounge, and he asked me to come over and paint up his new store. So this was really just kind of a feel-good piece, just showing the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, colorful rendition of the California Bear. We were actually testing out some new paints. Basically, the Bay Area Mural Program and myself individually, we are sponsored by Chroma Inc., which is a paint company out of Connecticut. And they were just trying to break into the West Coast market. I think this was 2016. So I was one of the first muralists over here to test out their paints. And, you know, we just wanted to see how the color and everything held up. So yeah, that mural is still in the back of Flax Art Store. You can check it out, 17th and MLK. And this is Woman Walking Lion. This is on San Pablo Avenue, between San Pablo and Market, between 30th and 31st Street. This one was done in 2015. There was a homeless camp that kind of set up in front of it. So I kind of, you know, had mixed feelings about it. It was, you know, homelessness is a big issue here in the Bay Area. So, you know, it's nothing you can really do about it, but they actually started a fire at this homeless camp, and it burned a good portion of this mural. So I just restored it probably about 3 weeks ago after the homeless camp had been moved, and they did a big street cleaning. Me and some of the other artists that have painted this wall, we're actually having another community cleanup day by this art and this wall August 15th. So I'll try and get Dan some invitations so he can pass those out for people that want to come out and, you know, just help keep Oakland clean. So yeah, that's Woman Walking Lion. And then we have some Timothy B pieces. So Tim can explain these.
Okay, yeah. So that's the turfing piece I was talking about. This piece reminded me of the time I was in high school. You know, turfing and tutting was it was well, it's still pretty popular within our community. Um, you know, I remember like growing up in high school, everybody wanted to be a turf dancer, including myself. It's just that, like me, I know how to move, but I'm not the best dancer. So it didn't work out so well. But I wanted to create this piece to, you know, pay homage to the town, and not just to Oakland, but specifically the town, because the town is like the culture in Oakland. You could be from Oakland and not be from the town, you know, and I feel like this piece is a good representative of that, you know, and the subject, the muse, his name is Gary, and he's a real popular, probably one of the most popular dancers here in Oakland. He goes by Ice Cold 3000, and the process of this piece, I had put a call for dancers out on Instagram, and a bunch of people hit me up from all over California. I was really surprised. And because he lived up the street from me, I didn't know who he was, but because he lived up the street from me, I decided to go with him. And I ended up setting up a photo shoot with him, and um, you know, end up meeting him, and he ended up being a real cool guy. And from there, I created the design, and we approached the wall. But you could go down and see this piece on First and Jefferson. It's still up there to this day. It's not as clean as the picture we have up there because of all the graffiti and furthermore. But yeah, this is definitely a town favorite, you know. So when you get the time, definitely go down there and check it out. I would really appreciate that. Oh, and that's brother Nipsey. That was what I spoke to y'all about. Um, you know, the late Nipsey, he passed away last May. Um, again, you know, he was a community leader, a businessman, an advocate, you know, for the arts and for you know, the STEM programs in LA. Um, you know, so I mean, if you want to look into them further, you know, definitely look him up on YouTube and get a sense of who he was as a person. You would definitely understand why this piece is so important um, around the country. And that's Nia Wilson. She had passed away a few years back in 2018. She was killed in BART. Um, you know, victim to white supremacy. And, you know, with everything going on, you know, I wanted to remind people of those we lost right here in our community. Everybody been, you know, yelling out George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all these other names. I felt that, you know, we need to pay homage to those who's from Oakland as well. And you know, she definitely, I wanted to create this piece, you know, to bring healing to her family. Recently, you know, we just received justice. You know, the murderer was sent to prison for life. You know, so this piece is to celebrate her life. You know, more than not to mourn her life, but to celebrate. You know, so Nia Wilson, y'all.
All right, so this brings us to the community engagement aspect of this presentation, where basically me and Timothy have met up. I met Timothy pretty much when he was working on that I met Timothy, what was that, 2018 was the Battle of the Canvas? Yeah, so we had,
Well,
we
well,
met
I
before that.
really met you. Yeah, no. See, the thing is, now I've been a fan of Natty for quite some time before, you know, he recognized a young lion. I had originally met him at Trap Art. It was a event that used to take place, between San Francisco and Oakland. And I was always a fan of his work, specifically he was doing all the things I wasn't, like traveling, and he was an international artist, and he was at Art Basel, creating murals. And I was greatly inspired by this brother, so through that inspiration, I was inspired to go to not the Battle of the Canvas. This was the other event that inspired the Battle of the Canvas.
Right.
And that's where we officially met, and we talked. And from there, he invited me to the Battle of the Canvas, and we've been solid ever since.
Yep. So, thank you for reminding. We met before that art contest, and since then we have worked on numerous projects. Timothy B is, it's a mutual respect. Even as a younger artist, I still see the drive and the determination in Timothy B, and that's why it's always a pleasure working with him. This photo right here is it's kind of small, but Timothy's there with the hat on. I'm beside him, and then next to me is Mayor London of San Francisco. In 2020, we received the Neighborhood Empowerment Network Award for the Spirit of the Fillmore mural that we did. So we pretty much engaged it's a senior community. There's a senior center right there in Buchanan Mall that we met with these seniors. We had lunch with them. We asked them what they wanted to see on their wall, and it was a mixed bag of everything. The community there in the Fillmore pretty much has been through numerous gentrifications, numerous just changes, and just you name it, the Fillmore has seen it. For those of you that are familiar with the Fillmore, so they wanted pretty much everything in this mural that had happened in the Fillmore. So we had to go and do our homework. We came back with a design, and they loved it, and they wanted us to pretty much paint the whole entire senior center. And this is the Rosa Parks Senior Center. So we pretty much ended up doing a whole story of the what do you call it? The camps that happened during World War II with the Japanese, going into the Harlem of the West, into Mary Rogers was a historical figure. And then they asked for a big image of Rosa Parks on it because it was Rosa Parks. It was named after Rosa Parks. So we had all these different concepts and everything that they wanted to put into this mural that we had to go back and figure out how we were going to tell the story. And this is one of the major reasons why I've gotten into murals and love murals, is because of their size and because of their ability to tell stories. So pretty much we just kind of laid this mural out like historically, just going from like 1940s on up. You'll see basically after Mary Rogers, we have the basically the tow trucks that came and took entire homes out of the Fillmore. So this was a Black-owned area that even before it was Black-owned, it was mostly Japanese town, but then they got kicked out. African-American community moved in because of employment. Then African-American community started doing well, and their entire homes were taken away from them. Some of the elders that we had met with in the senior home were still talking about vouchers that were given to them back in the 60s and 70s, just for them to move for a couple of years while they restored the neighborhood. And these people have not moved back since. And these were some beautiful, lovely homes. So basically, we just kind of told the whole entire story from, the first interracial baseball team that was there in San Francisco, Little League interracial baseball team that had Black and Asian and Caucasian members, to Miss Grace, who is a member, the Asian lady with the pink sun hat playing chess. You can find her there pretty much every day. It's sunny outside playing chess. Into the Russian and German community that's there. So we pretty much encompassed the whole building with all of these elders' stories. Some of them actually came out and helped participate. We had Mo Magic Youth Group come out and participate. I can't remember the name of the elementary school that was next door. They came out and participated. So the beautiful thing about these things, then Mayor London came out and unveiled it. We won an award for it. And they're talking about putting a QR code on it to where more of the story can be unveiled. So this is another aspect of where we're looking for, just helping, just telling the story so that people can come by and see the beautiful artwork, but those that want to know more can just hit the QR code and just read up on more of the information behind the mural, behind the process, behind the artist. So this is something that we've been working on just so that we can dial in more with our community engagement. This is a picture of me, Timothy, and 2 other BAMP members that went up to Standing Rock to do a mural along with Give Power, which is a nonprofit organization that works on solar panels over in San Francisco. They invited us out to Standing Rock. For those that don't know, Standing Rock has been the scene of a very large protest. They just received justice because the Dakota pipeline that was supposed to be running through their indigenous land has just been ordered to halt. But they've been protesting out there for some years now. We were called to come and do a mural along with the solar panels that were installed in the community. And and this is pretty much, those were members of the community that actually helped out. This was my first time actually being on a reservation and actually living and working with indigenous people of the Americas. And it was a life-changing experience. This is the mural that we actually worked on. We had 4 days to work on it. So me, Tim, and Rachel, another lead artist of BAMP, we had 4 days to not only meet with the natives there on the reservation, hear and listen to their stories, design the mural, and complete this, I think it might be 25 by 100 and some feet long mural. So in 4 days, we completed this. Timothy B did most of the designing. So everything from the is that Sitting Bull?
Mm-hmm.
Sitting Bull to the buffalo was all designed and laid out by Timothy B. Rachel added the horses. So this project, pretty much we had a day of just listening to stories and 3 days to paint this thing. And we pulled it off, and I was very proud of the team for just being part of such a powerful project. And this is Lodestar Elementary. We just completed Lodestar, let's see, pandemic, Corona started, April, May? This was supposed to be done at the end of the school year, but because of the COVID-19, children were, ordered to stay at home. This project almost didn't get done. We had been working on this project for about 2 years. We had gone into the classrooms, met with the admin. They had asked us to come and meet with the students. We had did 10 workshops with the students to hear what they wanted to see on their mural and on their school. We did workshops with them, we did Q&A activities, and right as we were about to start painting, COVID struck. So they didn't get to participate. We went ahead because the school was also under permit deadlines. We had to go ahead and complete the mural before the end of the year. So we went ahead and finished this mural up with the influence of all of the things that the children wanted to see in there, from even everything from the sneakers to the girls playing soccer. You can't really see the detail, but there's a map of Sabrani Park, which Lodestar that sits right on the edge of Sabrani Park. A lot of their hands, the children's actual hands, we just kind of recreated that childish, childlike drawing with the sides, with their hands reaching to the sun. So this was an exciting project. As soon as the school opens back up, we are actually going to continue to further engage the students by creating a coloring book for all of the classes that were supposed to participate on this project. we're creating a coloring book of the images that are on the wall for them to all be able to color as soon as they come back. It might actually be emailed to them if they're doing online classes, but we'll see how that goes. So, yep. All right. And then we have the Dig Deep farm mural that we did in San Leandro. This is a part of the, the San Leandro Police Department. They have sponsored this Dig Deep, it's not recycled food, but pretty much all of the food on farms that would go bad, they utilize it to jar and jam and make preserves and different type of sauces. And they do all that up on top of the hill here in San Leandro. So me, Timothy B, and I think about a total of 7 artists worked on this facility. And I think we pretty much did it in about 2 weeks. They pretty much told us the produce and veggies that they have in the farm, and we went ahead and just did a big San Francisco to Oakland cityscape in the background, going into a big produce of happiness. So that was that project. Then basically this slide was to just show the corporate projects that we've also taken on. As far as the one up in the top left, we worked with the Oakland A's and did a mural at the Coliseum inside of their garden. So even that was still with another nonprofit organization that does urban farming. So pretty much it was like a farm mural. And then underneath of that, we did plywood before plywood was even a trend. Up in Vallejo, that was a community-based project that we did on a hospital that was doing construction. So that was the boards that went around the hospital as they were doing renovations. And then the big one to the right, that is our Whole Foods mural that can still be seen down at Lake Merritt Whole Foods. And I think this might have been the first project that me and you worked on together, Tim.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Yep. So,
yeah, it was.
So yeah, that is just a little, introduction into the work that we've done individually and together. It's a whole lot more that can be found on our website. So you can go to our website, thebamp.org, or check out our Instagram, the Bay Area Mural Pro. Or what's your Instagram, Tim?
Timothy B _art is where you can find me.
So yeah, you can definitely stay current and just follow along as we paint up the town and the rest of the Bay. So I appreciate you guys taking a look at some of our work and hearing our stories.
Absolutely, well done. Thank you very much for sharing stories with us. Both inspirational, great expression of your determination, your flexibility to get to the next step. So thank you very much. So we have questions, quite a few of them. I'm going to summarize, and I'm going to send the first one to Timothy. A lot of them targeted on where you get your inspiration, whether it's what you're looking for yourself as an artist to express, the current political environment, or perhaps the future you envision. What is it that makes you, why did you all of a sudden, you express some of it with Nia Wilson, but when you see a blank wall, what is it that you're trying to envision that helps express this art?
When I see a blank wall, what is it that I'm trying to envision?
Yeah.
What's your inspiration?
Yeah. What inspires you to put something?
Well, so I paint murals. I paint murals simply because I feel like, I have the ability, I have the platform to tell the stories of those who don't have a voice. So I do my best to represent the community through art, So when I see a blank wall, a lot of times I think about what would benefit us, what would benefit people that look like myself who gone through some of the same things that I've gone through. Like, what will empower us? You know, so each and every one of my pieces are like symbols of empowerment and love, or simply the Black experience. I feel like what I mentioned earlier, like 4 years or 400 years ago, our voice was taken away from us. We haven't had uh, the ability or the opportunity to like express our voice, and because of that, we kind of been in a confused state, because our cultural and historical background was taken away from us, so like whenever I approach a wall, I'm thinking along those lines. What do we need to see that is going to empower us to stand up and create change outside of just protesting and raising our hands and yelling Black Lives Matter? Like outside of us trying to convince people that our lives matter, it's like, what else can we do? How can we protest differently? And that's what I think about. How can I protest differently and make a real significant change, because like taking this passive route is just not it, in my opinion. It's just not it, and I'm like, I respect those who go out and find purpose in doing that, but I think we've been doing that for too long. It's time for us to take a different approach, so even creating images of people who have organized, and like the Black Panthers. I'm fundraising for a Black Panther mural that is going to be located across the street from OPD, the precinct off 7th and Washington. Like, we need to see more images of people who put themselves in power and who like created change by making a difference through organization. That's what we need to see. So like when I see a wall, that's how I'm thinking. How can we mobilize and create change? Me personally, I create billboards. That's what I do. And on top of that, I have a huge platform. I'm community. I'm connected within the community. So a lot of people are inspired by me. A lot of people are influenced by me. So through art, I'm hoping that I will inspire somebody to be the catalyst towards change.
You mentioned that you are interested in affecting kids and being able to change mindsets. How do you look at the educational part of supporting this?
Well, considering that stability has been everything for me, at least trying to create stability just around, just in my life and around art. I personally would like to teach children how to be young entrepreneurs. I'm blessed to have willpower and drive, and faith in myself. And a lot of artists don't have that, especially a lot of artists grew up thinking that, they can't make it in this society as an artist. They can't, sustain, So I want to show young kids that is all a myth, that you can do it, because I'm an example of it. I'm doing it now, So, I mean, that's been my focus. I recently put in a grant for that. Excuse me. I live by the BART train. It's pretty loud over here, but I just put in a grant for that, for to create a program of artist entrepreneurship.
So, Andre, let me ask you this question now to build on what Timothy B. talked about. How do you see your art through BAMP and what you do and what Timothy does that affects social justice in today's environment?
Just to continue on what Timothy B was saying is that, we it's interesting. I've had this conversation on different platforms and different settings, but as Black artists, we don't have the freedom to just go out and, you know, paint kooky-eyed, silly faces. When we do public pieces, we have to speak for our community. We have to engage our community. We don't have the, you know, and I take pride in that. I'm not saying that as a complaint, but, you know, like with the difference of, we don't have the, you know, and that's why another reason I was talking about the flowers and the butterflies earlier is because in my life, even as an artist, it's not even until I got to the age of 40 that I even started painting flowers like the one that you see in the behind me, because I didn't really feel like that was revolutionary. I didn't feel like, you know, if I had to say something, it better make a change. It better influence somebody. It better make somebody think, because of the situation that I grew up in, because of always feeling like, I feel like, you know, I have to fight back, or I have to always prove myself, or I have to be, you know, 15 minutes earlier, or work twice as hard in order to get that job, or to get that position in the university, or to, you know, so I've always felt like, you know, I've had to fight for my position. And it's not until later on in my life that I've realized, you know what, I love flowers. I love, you know, beautiful images that aren't always, you know, fist in the air and, you know, telling that hard story. But this is the reality that we live in. Even currently, it's even more, you know, prevalent and more important that this social justice message is expressed. So that people understand, because even though it's 2020, and I always say this to I'm like, all right, things have changed. A lot of things haven't changed. And you know, every night that we turn on the news, we're reminded about that. You know, some people are still stuck in, you know, the 18th century in their ways of thinking, and the way they profile and look at, you know, different races as not being equal or the same. And this is where we have to constantly make a fight and make a stand. So even when it comes to public art, you know, I want to approach it to where I know I have a big wall and a big platform, and I know thousands of people are going to be looking and watching. What is it that I'm expressing? And I want to express something of, you know, thought-provoking change. But then there's times where it's like, you know what? I feel like painting flowers. And there's a whole plethora of other things that I want to just be able to get into in painting subject matter. I just went camping in Sierra Mountains this past weekend, and there's a million and one things in nature that I want to get into drawing and painting, but it's like, you know what? Right now I don't have time for that, because there's a message that has to be spread. There's a, you know, there is ideas and concepts that people are holding that, you know, even within the concept of even healthcare for all, at a time like this, I'm like, how do I address, you know, racial issues, healthcare issues, you know, women's right issues? And for me, the only way I've ever been able to address any strong or pertinent issues is through my art. And I feel like it's one of, you know, I'm thankful that I'm an artist, but I feel like it's also one of the best ways that you can make change, or even depict history. You know, a lot of times when we go searching through the history books, we're not looking at the laws and legalities that a a nation left during the height of its empire. We're looking at its artwork, you know, whether it be Rome or Egypt, or, you know, I feel like even here in the Americas, when people look back on these times, they're going to be like, all right, well, where are the hieroglyphics that did this? Oh, look at these plywood pieces. Oh, wow, is this what was going on in 2020?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting that you, in your comments, you said a few things that were caught my attention. You responded that your art is your protest, Andre. But then you're also saying that the people are starting to change as to what they want. They want murals of protest. So are you finding that your voice is now shifting to being more mainstream in today's environment? I mean, you clearly are still, both you and Timothy have made it clear you want to make a statement. about social justice, but how has the environment changed in the past 2 months that make it different for you in what you're conceiving and trying to express?
I don't think it's made it different. I think it's made it easier. But I think even for myself, or at least speaking for myself, it's also shown me that, as individuals, as people, we have, we're multifaceted. We have multiple voices. There's different days where I get up and I'm feeling like I just want to share beauty. There's other days where I want to share frustration. And I think this is the beauty of being an artist and taking the community into consideration, because I feel like we all go through these, you know, um, roller coasters of emotions to where they need to be expressed. So you might get something, I'm a an illustrator and I'm very good at fine art, but a lot of my artwork I love to make more cartoonish because I feel like it just gets a little bit closer to people's hearts because it's a little bit more childlike. And then I can hit them with like some very serious messages because now they're engaged in the colorful, cartoonish aspect of the illustration. So, it's different ways and different approaches that I feel like messages can get across. And even within that, I want to spread and have powerful messages, but also surrounded by just beautiful imagery, whether it be butterflies, flowers, whether it be, beautiful, brown people. I feel like if illustrated and depicted correctly, we can find beauty in any and everything that we illustrate.
Thank you. Timothy, question for you. You spoke to question that came in. You spoke to healing as a part of your art. What are your butterflies and flowers as part of that now? What do you look to as those things that connect to beauty in the mind that you believe your audience has?
I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant, but I think everything I create is beautiful. To be honest with you. I mean, sure, everything I create is butterflies. It could be compared to butterflies and fairies and flowers and all the good stuff. If you look at a lot of my pieces, my pieces are very bright and it's super vibrant. And I mean, if you don't like the content, you're gonna like my colors, and the colors is going to bring you healing in itself. I mean, I just created a piece in Livermore, and my piece is the brightest piece. The building I paint is the brightest painting or building in all of Livermore. And I've been receiving comments almost every day of people telling me, just the feelings they get from it. So that's it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's obvious because if you look at those murals, almost every single day, someone's taking a picture of it and someone's memorializing it in a different way, and digesting it in a different way. Andre, to you. So aside from just receiving funding, what kinds of support do you desire from the community? And I say that broadly to include things like education with students, with other means of support towards the vision that you have for BAM.
Great question. So, definitely, people can go to our website and make donations. But other than that, we're always taking donations of any kind. We just received 200 gallons of paint from a interior design company, which will definitely go a long way in helping us with different projects. We take donations of any kind, whether it be paint, whether it be administrative assistance. We have, youth programming, even adult classes that we do. But due to COVID-19, we've had to change up our, structure of classes. So right now we're trying to engage more online. So we bought a VR headset to where we're looking at trying to do more virtual reality exhibitions and, just engage people more online. So even just with that, just trying to get somebody who is, available to come and help us set up our VR room. So any type of technical support, supplies, equipment. We also have a volunteer list to where if people also want to come out and help with community-based projects, it's always it always gives us a helping hand when we have more people involved with certain projects to cover big field areas. So volunteers are always helpful. We also take admin volunteers to help us with our structure in-house with our new headquarters. So there's we're always open and open to help of any capacity outside of just monetary funding.
Okay. And all those opportunities are on your website?
Yes.
Okay. And
Well,
for everybody,
so right now, most of them are, but we also just got a nonprofit organization called Mission Bit to help us with creating a new website to be more engaging, to cover more of the things that we just talked about. So we're in the midst of building that with Mission Bit right now as well too. But yes, you can find some of that on our website currently.
well, you now know how to connect with Rotary in Oakland. Please feel free to throw some of those our way, and if we can find people to help connect to it, we'd certainly be able to do our best to make sure that happens, because we'd like to think it's more than just one opportunity for you to speak to us, but rather an opportunity to open a channel of communication. And so I think at this point, we've asked you a lot of questions. You both, I'm sure, are tired of talking. But at this point, I'm going to kick it over to our president, Brandy, to give a couple of last minute comments. And again, to both of you on my behalf, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Timothy B and Andre. I mean, I love your art. I've seen it around, and it's nice to kind of hear from the people that created it. I mean, you don't really get that opportunity, so this is kind of like a fangirl moment. As a thank you for speaking, Andre and Timothy B, Rotary has a mission to eradicate polio, and we are this close to eliminating it off the face of the earth. And to thank you for your time, we are donating vaccines in your names. So thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking the time. And I mean, as we've seen with this pandemic, any efforts to help public health is really important.
Definitely. Thank you.